When you go on holiday, I'm not saying you do it, you probably leave it to someone else in the family, but how do you plan it? Years ago when they suddenly announced package holidays, everyone went, yes, great, that's what we want. And then people went, I don't know, I want to do it myself. But one of the pitfalls in doing that, there's still some summer left. Elisabeth Glover is with us. She's a solicitor working for Manby Bowdler in Wolverhampton. So is it, I mean, my first thought was that trying to sort out the insurance if you book it yourself, is that the main problem?
Not necessarily, because it's not difficult to do. I mean, the whole booking process yourself is so easy these days online. So sorting out your insurance, Google search, multiple options for different insurers. I think the big deal might be that people aren't necessarily reading through what they're buying, not necessarily comparing one policy with another. And you can end up in a situation where you're not necessarily covered for the things you would want to be covered for.
If you book it online and book it all yourself, does it give you insurance options then?
Not usually. I mean, if you're doing it all yourself, no insurance is going to be something that you have to add on as an extra. I mean, you might, if you're lucky, get a reminder from whoever you've bought the major bits of your holidays from that you need to do it. But it would be quite possible for someone not to realise they needed to do it at all and go ahead and just travel without it.
Because, I mean, the liability if you are flying, obviously, or going on by boat or something, that is with those people. When you buy those tickets, you've automatically got that, haven't you? But if you're doing it all by yourself, then it's a very different thing. And given that if people, you know, in the 20s, you say to them, oh, it's high time you took out life insurance, they don't want to know, do they? And are we like this? I mean, do we think, well, yes, insurance, we know why it's there, we know it has to be, but, no, well, never mind, you know, we can save a few bob.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very much the case. People, you don't want to think about it going wrong, and I certainly don't want to spoil anyone's holidays if they've got something planned already, because most times people, you're going to go away, you're going to have a fabulous time, really enjoy yourself, come back tanned. It's just that tiny fraction of the times when things go wrong, you do want to be able to phone somebody up and say, you know, I've had to go and see a doctor in whatever resort I'm in. And you want to know that's covered.
And if it gets to you as a solicitor, what sort of problems are people bringing to you then?
I mean, a typical one would be kind of the holiday hasn't been what people expected, what they thought they were buying.
But isn't that subjective? I mean, presumably that's not something you can cover by insurance, saying, you
no,
know, the pool wasn't as good as I thought it was, the food wasn't as good.
Yeah, I mean, that would be more of a, what I, as a lawyer, would think of as a contractual claim rather than a matter for your insurer. It's more, you look at what you think you're buying. And I mean, the good news is for at least package holidays is that you get the benefit of the regulations and you are supposed to get the holiday that you thought you were buying. If it looked like that in the brochure, that's what's supposed to be delivered to you, and it can be much easier to pursue a claim like that than if you're just coming back and saying, oh well, I booked this hotel online and you know it was described as 3-star, but you know don't really think it suited that. It does, as you say, take some of the subjectivity away from it.
I mean, heaven forbid we ever become a society like the Americans with their running to law at the first possible thing. But have some people saying, well, you know, if you make enough fuss, we'll get some money back. And probably at the end, they don't get much back at all.
I mean, my real advice to people, and this is, I've dealt with a situation very much along these lines, is that you don't want to be talking to a solicitor when you come back from the holiday. If you're out there and you're having problems, raise it with your rep, raise it with the hotel. Really try and get it sorted while you're out there so you still get a good holiday. You don't want to be coming back and trying to see whether you're entitled to any compensation. Talk to people while you're out there, get everything documented, and then in the worst scenario, if it wasn't sorted at the time, then when you're back, you've got everything documented and you start looking then at what compensation might be available.
Because of course from time to time we see stories, and I saw one only in the last 24 hours, of a man who was on holiday, I think it was in Turkey. He got blood poisoning, he was taken ill and sadly died, and he had no insurance. Now, at that point, can they get the body back? I mean, will it become an expensive business? It becomes
a very expensive business because you're looking at sadly repatriating somebody's body in a coffin with all the special arrangements that's required for that. Normally, travel insurance would cover that kind of thing, but yeah, I can imagine if you didn't take out the policy, then you are looking, presumably your nearest and dearest as well, at a time when you'd expect them to be very distressed already.
Yeah. And I suspect when people are booking holidays and things, they probably think, oh, well, you know, everything will be fine. You know, there is that sort of feeling about it, isn't there, with people?
Yes, and of course it's a fun thing that you're doing, booking the holiday. Reading the small print isn't the fun bit. Imagining the beach or whatever particular holiday you're planning, that's the fun bit. You don't want to think about things going wrong. It's just that spending 5 minutes looking at the small print while you're doing it may save a lot of time and effort later on.
And will there be certain things that, no matter what, simply would not be covered in any insurance you took out, whether it was with a package holiday, whether it was a trip you planned and set up yourself, that it just wouldn't be covered?
Well, I know one thing that's been in the media recently that you might have picked up on is a holiday company going bust, essentially. That can be a huge problem for people. A good way of avoiding that is making sure that whoever you're booking with is either ABTA or ATOL bonded, which means that there's protection for your money, and you should be able to get any money you've paid over back. So yes, that's something that would not normally be covered by an insurance policy.
It was going to be the point I was about to make to you, that I saw a story the other week of people queuing outside somewhere. Now this was ABTA and ATOL protected. Does that mean in that case that, okay, you don't get the holiday, but are you guaranteed to get your money back?
You should be getting your money back in those circumstances, because the whole point of them having the bond is that they've taken out a policy that insures in a way that you haven't. So you should get your money back as the consumer.
I notice you say they should have taken out a policy. I suppose there might be occasions when that isn't the case.
They shouldn't then be using the ABTA or the ATOL logos, though, in that case.
Let's hope if everybody's in that position, do check. Well, there we are. That's something to think about. Don't forget your insurance. Elisabeth Glover, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
We are going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll be finding out what's on in and around the West Midlands over the next few hours of today. So see you in a couple of minutes.